Hey there, 8th graders. Welcome to today's Explainer. So today, we're going to completely flip the way you look at a page of poetry. We're pulling back the curtain to uncover the hidden architecture behind your favorite poems. You see, a poem, it's way more than just the words themselves. It's actually a blueprint, carefully designed by the poet to guide your eyes, your breath, and even your emotions. Let's get right into it.
Think about this for just a second. Does the actual physical shape of a poem on a page really matter? Honestly, we get so caught up in the idea that poetry is just about, rhyming words at the end of sentences or counting syllables. But what if I told you that exactly where a poet decides to hit the Enter key on their keyboard is just as crucial as the words they type? No joke. The visual layout on the page isn't an accident. It is a highly calculated strategy.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. First, poetry's hidden visual toolbox. Second, controlling pace with line breaks. Third, building rhythm with stanzas. Fourth, breaking rules. Fifth, making the visual plain. And finally, number 6, the godly learner.
Number 1, poetry's hidden visual toolbox. I want you to start thinking of poets not just as writers, but as master architects and maybe even movie directors. Just like a director tells an actor exactly when to pause, or when to rush, or when to whisper, a poet uses graphical elements to direct you, the reader. Think about it like this. The words are the bricks, but the graphical elements, those are the blueprints. Things like line length, stanza breaks, and capitalization, they're all super intentional choices. They literally guide your eye across the page and fundamentally shape your emotional journey. If you ignore the blueprint, well, you kind of miss the true depth of the whole building.
Number 2, controlling pace, line breaks. Let's look at the very first tool in that visual toolbox. This is all about controlling the pace of the poem, and the absolute main way to do that is with the line break. Now, a line break is exactly what it sounds like. It's the intentional point where a poet chooses to end one line and begin a totally new one. And listen, poets do not just place these randomly. The arrangement deeply affects pacing and emphasis. A sudden, short line makes you pause. It creates this little moment of suspense, right? But if a poet uses a really long, flowing line that stretches all the way across the entire page without stopping, it totally mimics a rapid, continuous stream of thought. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the comparison. Look on the left side. We have a normal sentence, a red wheelbarrow glazed with rain. You read it super fast, right? All in one breath. But check out the right side. This is how the famous poet William Carlos Williams actually wrote it. A red wheel barrow glazed with rain. By breaking the lines in these totally unusual places, he literally forces us to slow down. He isolates the words so that we actually have to stop and clearly visualize the redness, the wheel, the rain. He is completely controlling your brain's pacing just by using visual space. It's pretty amazing. Number 3, building rhythm with stanzas.
So, that brings us to our next major tool for structuring a poem. If a line break is kind of like a slight pause in a sentence, this next tool is like the movie director yelling "cut" for a totally distinct scene change. We're talking about the stanza. A stanza is simply a grouping of lines in a poem. You can think of it exactly like a paragraph in a normal essay or a storybook. Stanza divisions are absolutely crucial because they totally influence how we interpret a poem's flow and its overall structure. When a poet drops in a stanza break, they're visually signaling to you, hey, take a breath, we're shifting the mood, the rhythm, or the subject here.
A really fantastic example of this is Robert Frost's classic poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Frost uses these perfectly structured, evenly spaced stanzas that just steadily build on one another. As you read it, the visual rhythm of those neat little blocks of text literally mirrors the calm, steady, unhurried pace of a horse pulling a carriage through the quiet, snowy woods. The visual structure perfectly matches the story he's telling.
Number 4, breaking rules, capitalization, and sheet. Let's move on and see what happens when poets decide to just completely throw standard grammar rules out the window. Because honestly, once you know the rules of the blueprint, you can bend them to create some truly stunning effects. Take the poet E.E. Cummings, for example. If you look at his poetry, you might honestly think his spacebar and shift keys were completely broken. He constantly dropped capital letters or added these weird, huge spaces right in the middle of lines. But 8th graders, I promise you, it wasn't a typo. It is a brilliant, deliberate trick. By abandoning standard capitalization and spacing, he absolutely forces you to slow down and rethink familiar words. He disrupts what you expect to see just to make you pay closer attention. And this brilliantly illustrates the extreme edge of visual poetry, which we call concrete poetry. Just take a look at George Herbert's poem Easter Wings. The actual arrangement of the words on the page physically forms a visual image that mirrors the subject. The poem is quite literally shaped like wings. The lines shrink way down in the middle as he writes about spiritual poverty, and then they expand all the way outwards as he writes about rising up. The visual shape physically reinforces the theme of spiritual ascent, right there on the page in front of you.
Number 5. Making the vision plain.
Now, you might be wondering, why in the world does learning how to manipulate text and spacing matter outside of an English classroom? Well, it matters because intentional communication is an absolutely vital life skill. And actually, it connects to a much higher purpose. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 2 says, "Write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it." Structuring your communication clearly so that other people can easily grasp the vision, that isn't just a neat academic trick. It's a fundamental biblical principle. Whether you're writing a poem, putting together a business plan, or sharing your faith, exactly how you arrange your message determines how well others can receive it and act on it.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is actually applying this. Here is your mission for this week. Number 1, I want you to identify one purpose of a line break in a poem. Number 2, explain how stanza divisions can influence a reader's interpretation of tone. Number 3, find a poem that uses unusual capitalization and explain the effect it has. Number 4, write your very own 4-line poem where the visual arrangement actually adds meaning to your words. And finally, number 5, compare the visual layout of 2 different poems and explain how they differ in their overall impact. You've got this.
Number 6. The godly learner.
Before we wrap everything up today, I want to zoom out for a second and look at today's lesson through the philosophy of the HeroesMart Academy Godly Learner. We're teaching you some really powerful academic tools today, how to manipulate language, structure, and human emotion through your writing, but tools always need the right hands to guide them. At HeroesMart Academy, we intertwine biblical morality with education, because education without morality can actually hurt. Just giving you intelligence without wisdom, that's dangerous. True knowledge should empower you to make wise, God-honoring choices rather than simply making you more capable. Romans chapter 8, verses 6 through 7 teaches us that keeping the mind spiritually minded leads to life and peace. So when you learn to write beautifully, you absolutely must also learn to write truthfully. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought as you head into your assignments. How will you use your new knowledge today to honor God and make your vision plain? I really encourage you to passionately pursue academic excellence. Go master those line breaks and those stanzas, but always, always keep your mind centered on God, on truth, on wisdom, and on righteous choices. Have an absolutely amazing week of writing, 8th graders, and I'll see you in the next explainer.